My name is Peter Kovács. I'm at the Agronomy, Horticulture and Plant Science Department at SDSU, and my main research focus is corn and soybean management. And today I'm going to talk some of the recent research what we did in corn production. As many of us know that nitrogen is really important for the corn, and the main goal when we using nitrogen fertilizer to keep the nutrient in the soil that would be available for our plants. In the past 3 years, with a colleague of mine, Dr. Jason Clark, we conducted nitrogen timing application studies, and one of our locations was at the Beersford site, where we compared the 100% pre-plant application with a split application where majority of the nitrogen was applied at the V3 or at the V5 growth stages. If I want to quickly summarize just the timing effect, what we can see that the split application only benefited the yield or improved yield in 2019, and when we are looking overall the 3 years averages, we produced similar grain yields whether it was a pre-plant application or we split the nitrogen up. So when we did the split application, we applied about 40 pounds of nitrogen at planting, and then the remainder of the nitrogen was applied at that 3 or 5 leaf growth stages. But when we are looking a little bit of the details and how much nitrogen we really needed to maximize our yield, and we spread out the yield response, so our total nitrogen rate is ranged from 0 to about 240 pounds per acre. And when we look at the yield response curve, we can see the similar yield response as the previous table showed. There was no yield advantage except in 1 year. And over the 3 years, what we can say that with a pre-plant application only, we needed about 180 pounds of nitrogen as we applied to maximize our yield. However, when we did the split application, we can see that optimum N rate, or that N rate what was reaching that plateau yield, was lower, and especially for the V3 application with a red line, it was about 125-130 pounds of nitrogen. So even though we haven't improved the grain yield in this study, but we can see in the past 3 years we didn't need it to apply as much of nitrogen to reach the maximum grain yield. Obviously this year is a much drier. Unfortunately, we are not continuing this study in 2020, so I'm not sure what will be the result with this drier season, since the 2018, 2019 and 2020 season relatively moist at the beginning of the season. The other study what we did, part of this South Dakota Nutrient Research and Education Council funded project, is comparing some of the late citrus application options, whether it's a rescue or intentionally delayed application method. And now we have the technical capability of applying nitrogen later in the growth stages. We are about the V7 at this point, so even later than this, in about a week or 2 weeks from now, at the 10 leaf or 14 leaf growth stages. So what we did is comparing 60, 80 or 120 pounds of nitrogen at planting, and then we came back at either at the 10 or the 14 growth stages and applied the remainder of nitrogen, that we had a total of 120, 160 or 200 pounds of nitrogen. And this late citrus was applied as a liquid urea ammonium nitrate, so the 28% solution, and we used a small research unit of a Y-drop applicator. I'm just going to show quickly the results from 2020, and when we comparing to the only pre-plant but the same nitrogen rates. So the different colors will show the total nitrogen rates. The blue will respond to the 120 pounds, the yellow to the 160 pounds of total nitrogen, and the black bars are the 200 pounds of nitrogen what we applied as a total nutrient. And the different set of columns will show us that what was our pre-plant nitrogen rate and when was the split application done, either at the V10 or the V14 growth stages. But overall in 2020 and even on the previous years, we did not see grain yield differences when we compare to the only pre-plant applications at this location. So likely this intentionally delayed application may not be feasible, at least at current situations in South Dakota. So far I was talking about the nitrogen, but the other major input factor or input cost for producers are the seed. And in the past couple of years I started to do some seeding rate experiment just to see where we can optimize, or what would be that optimum seeding rate where we can maximize or optimize our grain yield. And we know that if we have a lower seeding rate, our plants will be spaced much more apart, so there will be a less plant-to-plant competition like in this plot, versus if we have a really high seeding rate, which will also cost us more seed because we have to plant those seeds, plus it will also result some or higher plant-to-plant competition. So last year I used two hybrids, and what we got as a result that we can see the relative yield across the seeding rates, and you can see the stand count range from somewhere around 22,000 all the way up to 40,000, and we didn't see a whole lot of yield impact in 2020. This year, as we start a new project, and I had an early planting and a normal planting, I extended it into this seeding rates study as well. So we'll have this year information on early planting and the normal planting window seeding rate response as well. And we started a new starter fertilizer. So hopefully, as you will come back to other research updates or extension updates from our group, you will start to hear more of the updates from our starter fertilizer response, where we compared two different starter fertilizer with and without zinc application, and several fertilizer placement methods at an early and normal planting window. So hopefully we can give to you as an advisor or producer information if the starter fertilizer will provide us a real grain yield benefit, and if so, would the timing of the planting make a difference in that yield response. So please stay tuned for those updates in the coming months and coming years, as we're hoping to complete those 3-year study, and that study is also sponsored by or funded by the Nutrient Research and Education Council. And thank you for your attention. And if you have any question about the research or the result what I presented, please feel free to contact me via email.